We have some major breaking news here on a Tuesday on Steelers Talk as 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, the second-team All-Pro wide receiver from last year, has requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. I'll break down everything that you guys need to know about Aiyuk, his numbers from last year, whether or not the Steelers could be interested in landing him, and then by the end of the show today, I'm going to let you guys know what I would offer the 49ers in exchange for Aiyuk's services. But before we get into it today, make sure you click that subscribe button, because if something happens, if the con artist is able to pull off this trade and Brandon Aiyuk is becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler, we are going live immediately here on Steelers Talk, and we are going to have the biggest live show in the history of our company here at Chat Sports. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because if a trade happens, we're going to be partying it up, and you don't want to miss it. Okay, now we get to the report here from Mike Garafolo, who had it first. He says, source, 49ers All-Pro wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk has officially requested a trade after an offseason of unsuccessful attempts to reach an extension. Despite a recent meeting, the Niners haven't been willing to engage in negotiations since May, so Aiyuk has respectfully asked out. Another report from Albert Breer says the Niners were in this position 2 years ago with Deebo Samuel, talking about requesting a trade, and went all the way up to the doorstep of the season last year with Nick Bosa. Clearly, they've shown a desire to keep Brandon Aiyuk, but the Justin Jefferson deal did shift the market conditions. And then kind of a little bit of a counter report here from Adam Schefter says sources, other teams that have reached out and have spoken to San Francisco have been told that the 49ers have no intention of trading disgruntled wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who officially has requested a trade. 49ers open training camp next week. So listen, man, we have talked about Brandon Aiyuk on this channel more than any other player in terms of somebody that's not on the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. We must have had at least 25 videos breaking down Brandon Aiyuk, or at least Aiyuk being a part of that video. And the reasons are clear. Brandon Aiyuk is a second-team All-Pro wide receiver. He kind of fits what the Pittsburgh Steelers need in their wide receiver room right now, which is a true route-running technician. And guys, he's only 26 years old. This is one of the best receivers in football. He is the same exact height and weight as Van Jefferson, 6 foot, 200 pounds. So he's got good size. He's a really good run blocker. He's played in that San Francisco offense that preaches run blocking from their wide receivers, and the Steelers have reportedly shown a lot of interest in Aiyuk, have called the 49ers a number of times trying to land Aiyuk, but the 49ers have not been willing to come to the table. You see his numbers from last year, his All-Pro season, 17.9, almost 18 yards per catch. That is astronomical in NFL standards. 7 touchdowns, 75 total catches. I mean, this guy's an absolute freak, man. And you look at the last 2 seasons, I mean, really great production in both of those years. Now, the average yards per catch actually took a step up in 2023. Had 1 less touchdown, had slightly more yards, couple less catches. But the last 2 years, man, Brandon Aiyuk has been a bona fide all-pro caliber wide receiver, and he's only 26 years old. He's a perfect fit for Arthur Smith's offensive scheme. I don't think that the Steelers could dream up a better trade target than Brandon Aiyuk to add to this offense. But let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Steelers trade for Aiyuk? You have to remember you're going to have to pay him $30 million per season if you trade for him. So type T for trade or type P for pass for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So here's the way that the Steelers wide receiver depth chart currently is constructed. Now, there's a bunch of guys heading into training camp that are going to be competing for positioning. George Pickens is your bona fide number 1 receiver, but Roman Wilson, the rookie out of Michigan, Calvin Austin III, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, all these guys that they brought in this offseason, they're going to be battling it out for kind of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 work in Latrobe this year. But if you add Brandon Aiyuk into this mix here and you look at what the Steelers weaponry would look like, man. Jaylen Warren, I've said I think he's going to be the most important offensive player for the Steelers offense this year. I think he's one of the best running backs in football. But then you get an awesome wide receiving duo in Brandon Aiyuk and George Pickens, Najee Harris as your other running back that will still play a very key role in this offense. And then Pat Freiermuth has reportedly looked like an incredible offensive talent in OTAs. I think he's going to play a huge part in this Arthur Smith scheme with Russell Wilson coming in as the new quarterback. So here's the kind of what I want to talk about, man. What could an Aiyuk trade look like? As Steelers fans, you're probably wondering, hey, man, what's it going to cost to bring this guy in? Well, first of all, it's going to cost you $30 million per year, probably on the next 4 years. So $120 million total over the next 4 years on his next contract. Plus, you're going to have to make a trade with San Francisco, a team that definitely does not want to, unload him. Plus, you're going to have to beat some other teams out there that are currently trying to acquire Aiyuk, because the Steelers aren't the only team in need of a receiver. So here's what I would offer. This is probably what my starting offer would be. If I am Steelers GM Omar Khan, I would offer a second-round pick next season, okay, and then I would be offering Calvin Austin III, because if you're adding Brandon Aiyuk, guys, I think we all know Calvin Austin III's role in this offense is probably going to be a little bit limited in terms of what Calvin brings as a punt returner. I think Cordero Patterson could probably fill in, and there's other players on this team that can fill in that role as well. But listen, man, when it comes to Aiyuk, I think that this is a fair deal. It gives the Niners a wide receiver that they can add to kind of switch out for Brandon Aiyuk, somebody that does have special teams upside there in Calvin Austin III. Plus, they get a pretty darn good draft pick and a second-round pick, all right? So I think this is a fair offer. You have to remember that you have to pay Aiyuk $30 million per season, so that's definitely something the Steelers will have to weigh on here, and you're probably going to have to pay him a 4-year extension. So you'd be locking him up to be a Steeler for the next 5 seasons if you end up making this deal. So listen, man, my take on this and whether or not the Steelers should pull the trigger on this is that I think that if the Steelers are truly going all in, and everything that we have heard from Omar Khan and everybody covering this team is that they're going all in. They're trying to win with the talent that they have right now. Brandon Aiyuk clearly gives this team the best possible shot to win a Super Bowl in the short term with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. You have George Pickens, who would be an awesome, running mate with Brandon Aiyuk. You have an excellent defense. You're going to have a good run game. Hopefully the offensive line improves quite a bit this season. But Brandon Aiyuk, right now he is the guy that could fix all of the wide receiver 2 problems that we have been talking about for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And is he expensive? Yes. All right. But in my opinion, based on everything that I've seen from his film, he is worth that $30 million per year. And let's remember, the Steelers are currently spending the least amount of money on offense in the entire National Football League. They're currently paying the most on defense. It's time to start, balancing out that scale a little bit, because this is an offensive league, and Brandon Aiyuk, I think, is worth that $30 million contract. The production he's had over the last 2 seasons certainly proves that, and I think that Aiyuk would make the Steelers even more dangerous. I think even as constructed right now, the Steelers will have a good football team capable of competing, maybe even win a playoff game. But if you add Aiyuk and you add this legit number 2 wide receiver to your team who's been an all-pro in this league, I think that that's going to catapult the Pittsburgh Steelers into being legit Super Bowl contenders heading into this season. Now, other destinations that Aiyuk could end up in, the Washington Commanders have been heavily linked to Aiyuk. There was a report a couple weeks ago that the Commanders and 49ers are actually working on a deal for Aiyuk that fell through. Of course, Jaden Daniels is Brandon Aiyuk's college quarterback back at ASU. They're really good friends. They work out in the offseason. So that one is certainly going to be a top contender, the Commanders. And then the New England Patriots, who could certainly use a wide receiver. According to Jacina Anderson from CBS Sports, I believe, she says that the Patriots have been in contact with the 49ers about a potential Aiyuk trade. But another thing to keep in mind as well, when you're talking about this whole saga, and when we're talking about the 49ers, you have to realize that these guys get deals done extremely late. Okay, and you have to remember, too, Deebo Samuel requested a trade, eventually got that deal done July 31st, all right? So we might be coming up on a potential extension here for Aiyuk. He could be trying to jockey for leverage here to try and get the 49ers to pony up the money that he wants. So I guess we'll see in the coming days. But you have to remember here, the 49ers are comfortable in this type of situation. They've been here before, and they get these deals done late. So it wouldn't completely shock me if a deal still gets done by Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers on a long-term contract. And that'll be it for today's show, guys. I'll probably have more thoughts on this trade request if nothing happens by tomorrow. I'll probably be going over it on Steelers Talk Live starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow on Wednesday. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now. And until then, here we go, Steelers.